But you at 15 were picking up the phone or going to relatives saying, hey, I know I've got to get out of this situation. Can you help me? I mean, what bravery you had, and just kind of what a desperation you probably must have felt at 15. And probably thinking, I shouldn't have to be doing this.
That didn't never really cross my mind that I shouldn't.
Really?
It just seemed it was normal. That was my life. That's what it was. It wasn't, it's when you're living in it, you're not seeing that, oh, this is how people live and this is what it's supposed to look like. You just see, this is my life.
You don't know that there's a different normal.
Yes.
That your normal wasn't normal.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Just didn't know my normal wasn't normal. I mean, it's like you kind of know it is, but it's I don't know. That's hard to explain. It's like you see the Leave It to Beaver and family things and stuff like that, and I guess you just know that that's a lie. You feel that's a lie.
That's a horrible example, because I don't know any. Okay, if you're a mother out there that like cleans and pearls and high heels and a dress, props to you.
Yes.
But I've never met one.
No. Yes, but it just that was fault. It's like that was just a fantasy. That's not so. Things, though, that kind of life, I guess, it's just a fantasy. That's kind of how, I guess, the best could describe it. But the biggest thing is I was very torn because I did not want to leave my sisters in that situation. I knew if I go here, I can't take them with me. And then so I was fighting with that, leaving them there, not being able to help and protect them, and then feeling very selfish for doing something for myself. So,
because you had just been giving and giving and giving at such a young age. And to say, so people kind of have a background here too, your siblings had different dads, correct?
Yeah,
okay.
All of us have different dads.
So it's not like your grandparents had no connection to them like they did to you. So it's not like you could say, hey, can they come with me? Because they had totally different, parents. Mm-hmm. So they couldn't carry that responsibility.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 15, I move in with my grandparents. And I was in cheerleading at this time. And I had a really, really good friend that actually lived in the neighborhood with where we lived. And she had invited me to church. So we were super close, and she invited me to church. So I started going to church with her. And it's a little bitty Baptist church. I mean, super teeny tiny. I think there was probably 6 of us in the youth. So, I mean, it is what you would.
I grew up just like that. Yeah. There was maybe like 6 of us in the whole youth group. Yeah.
Like the wood pews, what you would think of an old time Baptist church. It was the epitome of. So
half the time we didn't even have like a piano player to like sing the worship. So our pastor, I remember, open your hymnal to page whatever. Yeah. And then our pastor actually got up there and was the one to lead the worship. We had no worship pastor.
Oh, yeah. No. Yeah. Nope. Yep. Same thing. Had no worship. I remember like the board too, where like they had the little tiles that take like attendance, like people who've attended like last week and this week and stuff, like the little board with little tiles and things. But so started going with her and her family, on a more regular and consistent basis and things like that. And again, I think that small feel, there was that community, and we were, it was just really, really great. And I loved, they did have a youth pastor. I think there was only 2. I think it was the senior pastor and the youth pastor. I think that was it at the church. But they, talked about going, summer camp, brand new. I'd never heard of such a thing. Didn't know that was a thing that kids went to a summer camp for the whole summer for a church thing. And I'm like, what is the summer camp thing that they're, talking of? And they're like, and talking about the fees. And I'm like, I don't want to ask my grandparents for the money to pay for it. Because still there was kind of that shameness. And again, whenever I went in to go live with my grandparents, it's almost like moving in with strangers. And then I went from a very tiny, like 3-bedroom, low-rent house apartment to what I thought was a very grand home,
right?
And so it felt not mine, not my space and things like that. So kind of navigating through that too, trying to.
Well, you were still living a little bit off of your own independence because that's all you knew. That's all you knew, was to be independent on your own. Yeah. So I'm sure going and asking someone for something, it's almost like you wouldn't know how to do that.
No. And then it never crossed my mind that parents paid for that type of stuff.
Right.
It really didn't.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I can't ask my grandparents to pay for it, which I'm sure they would have 100% done it. But the youth pastor was so sweet and kind and things like that. They had a couple of young kids, so they let me and my friend Amy actually too, to kind of earn some of the money to go to camp. Like we would babysit, we would go mow the yard, and we would do chores and stuff for them and do things around the church and things like that to earn money. So, and I'm sure my grandparents did that to give me that working, value and things like that.
The world's finest chocolate.
Oh my gosh, that is so funny. No, but I do remember that. I think I did that for another fundraiser.
That was always.
Who knows?
Did you do that, Zay? The selling the world's finest chocolate candy bars, like
the white, and the big box,
Yeah,
gosh,
I will never forget that.
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, I think some groups still do that. Like I remember when Gabrielle was in middle school, I think there were some kids doing that, but I remember I always hated it because they'd be like, you have to sell this many chocolate bars. And then my parents would wind up buying the chocolate bars.
Just so we don't have to sell, And then that's the thing too, is like you just let your kids go to random people's houses and knock on their doors and stuff like that and take money from them. It's total, will you never let any of your kids do now? Yeah, we just go down the street. It's like, just drop them off here. We'll meet up with y'all later.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's funny. I totally forgot about that. But yes, the world's finest chocolate. But no, but they did let me, like I said, worked around the church and things like that. And my friend Amy, we did it together. So that was the cool thing too, is, again, seeing that in community, we were doing it together. So earn the money to go to summer camp. And so I went to the summer camp and, just thought it was like the amazing thing. And it honestly, the correlation I get, it was like a tiny city of teenagers. That's what it is. It's like this little city with nothing but teenagers. I mean, obviously there's supervisors, chaperones and things like that, but it was, it was really, really neat. And we would go to Tabernacle every night and things like that. And that's kind of where we all would congregate together and the whole camp and things like that and see these people and worship and a message and everything like that. And I just remember the one night being there after that, just really being called, to give my life to Jesus at that point in time. Not fully understanding, but just, I am not a person that likes to go up front and anything. So they'd done it a couple of nights, like every night they'd done it. I'm like, I am not going up front. No, I'm going to stay in the background. I'm fine being back here. But I just felt very compelled. I remember being, 15 years old, almost 16. Just felt very compelled to go forward and give my life to Jesus. And I did, and I wept. And like you said, I'm not a big crier, but I did. I just wept up there. And it was just this renewing, just like I did. I felt a weight, this lift off my shoulders. Not that fixed everything, obviously, because my whole journey, it's literally a journey. Jesus had processed me through so many stages of my life, and he still does it every day, obviously. But I just remember that there was this weight lifted in that. And then when we came home, I was baptized at our little small church and stayed very, connected to the church for at least 2 years. And then a little bit older, I was getting where I was almost, when I was about 18, getting to where the freedom, where I'm going to be kind of going out. And I, hanging out with the wrong crowd. I think I was so desperate, part of it now, looking back, for my mom's affection and just acceptance and love, that I would try to be her, like, she would try to be my friend. We would try to hang out. I'm like, oh, this is so cool, and things like that. And she actually introduced me to a man. I was 18 years old at the time. He was 8 years older than me, which is, again, not normal. Not anybody would ever do. But did, and we were dating. I ended up getting pregnant. So I was in my senior year in high school, and I've done all this stuff. I mean, I'm getting ready to be college bound and things like that. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I just fell in to my family trap. I mean, I've fallen into the same routine. I've fallen into that same lifestyle. What did I do? So we end up getting married. I did finish high school, but I didn't get to do any of my cool senior stuff,
Right.
And so I had my first daughter at that point. So I was had her just shy of my 19th birthday. So we were married, and we only stayed married for about 3 years. It was, I was a lot younger than him, so it was a controlling relationship and things like that. I did have a really good job, so I started working at this. It was a trucking company at the time, and I started out as a file clerk. That's all I was doing, was just filing stuff like that. They're like, hey, you're very good at organization, stuff like that. We need an accounts payable clerk. So we're going to hire you on full time to be an accounts payable clerk. So I went in as a temp. And so that's how I got my first real job.
Right.
And I'm in the accounting department. And later on, they actually bumped me, which is crazy thinking now, because I was 21, they bumped me to account manager, and I didn't even have a degree. They were helping me. They were sending me to school and stuff like that. But I started getting this confidence kind of back, in things like that. And I had a couple of friends, and I didn't notice I didn't have any friends before, but that was the hold that my husband had on me that time. It was this control. And he had physically put his hands on me through our relationship. He'd never hit me, though, which doesn't make it any better. One of the scariest times, I do know, I was pregnant. I was big pregnant with Danielle, and we were going back and forth at each other, and we had done laundry, so we were poor. We had gone to the laundromat, and we had laundry baskets, and our apartment was you had to walk up the steps. We were on the second floor, and he had one of those. Those Sobe drinks.
Yeah, I remember.
Remember the lizard, and they came in the glass bottle. So that's what he'd had. Well, he'd stuck it on top of the basket, and it rolled off. Well, I thought he was being a baby. I thought he was throwing a temper tantrum, and I thought he chunked it up and broke it on the ground. I'm like, oh, that was real mature of you. And that's all I said. And I go up and I take my basket and stuff like that. Oh, no, he was in front of me, and he stomped up there. Well, when I come in, I guess, I don't know what about that, but that
made him mad.
Made him very angry, and he grabbed me by the throat and picked me up off the ground. I couldn't breathe. I remember him being in my face, and all I remember doing was just holding my stomach to protect, and then he yelling at me about how he didn't throw it. It rolled off the basket, and I can't remember everything. I do remember that. And then he threw me across the room, and I hit the back of my head on the leg of the couch, and I just laid there for a while because I'm like, don't want to upset the, apple cart,
right,
so to say. But, that was one of the most, that was the first very
big thing.
Scary things like that, which was a sign I should have gotten out. But
Did you see any signs prior to that?
Yes.
Happening? Was it verbal? A lot of verbal?
A lot of verbal. It all starts out verbal first, 100%. Yeah, it was just verbal, just downgrading me, calling me horrible names. I remember him calling me the first time, and I'm like, even, through the craziness of my family, it wasn't ever directed like that. And just like my character and how, just bad I was, and just denigrating. And then he did punch the windshield. I remember I think he broke a couple knuckles from punching the windshield, and those were things, but I was already pregnant at the time. So I was like, what am I supposed to do?
What else am I going to go to?
Yeah, what else am I going to go to? I don't.
And let me just say to you guys out here, I don't know who's watching, but I just feel the urge to say this. I want to tell you that is not love. That is not love. And don't ever feel like you are stuck in a situation. There are people everywhere. Go to your local church. Go find a friend. There are people everywhere who want to love on you, who want to help you get out of a situation. So I want you to hear it from me, and this is from somebody that's been through it. I never went through anything quite that extreme, but that's not love. And I want you to know that there is love, and there's a God kind of love that only you can experience through Christ. But I want you to hear that that is not true love, and you are loved. Mm-hmm. You are loved. You are loved by Christ. You're loved by me. Even if I don't know you, I love you. I care about you. So I just kind of felt the urge to say that. But just from what her story is saying, you had a fear of leaving because you were pregnant and you felt stuck. And you didn't, looking back, I'm sure now you think, well, I didn't have to be.
No. I mean, I know my grandparents, they would have.
Right. They would have stepped in.
Yep.
Absolutely.
But again, there was that pride, I think, in that too also. It's like, no, I've messed up so bad, I can't go back. I've messed up so bad.
You had a little bit of that shame. Yes. You were carrying shame, and let the shame go and just ask for help. I know it's hard, but set your pride aside and say, I need help. That's okay to say that. Mm-hmm. I cannot tell you, just from working in ministries, how people are so eager to help. Even volunteers that serve, they are eager to help. And I just want people to know that there is help, and there are people that love you and care about you. If you don't know another way, shoot us a DM. Mm-hmm. We will find you a way. We are here for you. We will find you a way. So, all right, on to the next thing. I just felt a nudge to say that just for somebody. I don't know who, but yeah.
No, I think that's perfect. No, it is. It's good. That's powerful. So, but so later on, like I said, after I had that job, and I was just getting this more confidence, like, oh, they're paying for me to go to school. And I mean, I jumped all over that.
And this is while you were still married?
This is while I was still married, yeah. And so this was the breaking point. So there was, like I said, there was abuse. I'd seen, my mom and her relationship. Most of it was verbal, not a lot of hands-on, other, breaking stuff. But my grandmother, my mom's mom, which is my grandfather, was very abusive to my grandmother. So I never saw it, but I heard all the stories and heard why she stayed and things like that. And when she finally did leave, I mean, the abuse was so bad that we saw a picture of her like when she was in elementary school, and she's unrecognizable because he broke her nose so many times. She had to have surgery that, like, I remember it was one of my daughters had asked her, like, well, who is this? And Grandma, well, that's me. She's like, that does not look like you. And it didn't. Her nose was totally different. But so just kind of with that in the back of my head, I'd heard those stories and things like that. So going on, whenever we were married just a couple of years, I think I was, like I said, 20, 21-ish. And I'm kind of, like I said, started out as a file clerk, temp file clerk of all things, went to accounting. So that's how I got into accounting. And then becoming the account manager, had a couple of friends. Well, I had wanted to go visit a friend this one night, and he threw a fit, a wall-eyed fit. He's like, no, you're not going. I'm like, you're not telling me I'm not going. It's bedtime. I'll put Danielle to bed, and I'm going over to my friend's house. Right. Well, World War III, we're like fighting. I don't even remember all the fight, obviously. I do remember, because I remember Danielle coming to me at one point in time, and she was 2 and a half. She did remember us. We hid in the bathroom, and I totally forgot about that. So we lived in a townhouse. We were up and down, and we had gone into the bathroom, and I'd shut us in the bathroom and, stay away from him and try to get him to cool down. And then he was threatening to take Danielle, like to leave and take Danielle and things like that. And she kind of remembered that. Well, I'm like, I'm just going to take her with me. So I had her on the couch, and I was putting her shoes on, and I was squat down on the couch. I think he was sitting there on the couch, and I don't even know what I said, but I said something that had struck a nerve with him, and he hit me in the face. And that was the first time he'd ever hit me in the face. And I was shocked. I don't know why, but I was shocked. And that was like my drawing. That was like my line right there. That minute it clicked, we're not doing this. Because what it was, I remember actually now, see that he hit me in the face, and I was putting Danielle's shoes on, and I look up at Danielle, and she has no reaction.
She thought that was normal.
Yeah, she didn't react. Yeah.
It didn't scare her.
It didn't scare her. And I'm like, we are not doing this. So I did. I went to, again, kind of feeling like we're going back. When I was 15, my grandparents, stuff like that, helped me, get me in the situation that I've obviously put myself into and things like that. But they were there. It was a loving things like that. So was able to get out of that relationship.
So you went and stayed with your grandparents then for a little while?
We had some relatives that lived, so we weren't in Ponk anymore. We were in Oklahoma City, which is the big city in Oklahoma. I mean, there's like 2 cities literally in Oklahoma that anybody knows. So
Tulsa and Oklahoma City.
Exactly. Tulsa and Oklahoma City. So we were big time in Oklahoma City, So it was I don't know. And then everybody's related. So we say, it was a relative, but it's more probably a family friend. So I ended up staying with a family friend for a little bit. And then my grandparents helped me get an apartment and things like that, living there on my own and stuff like that. And they helped me financially through, this time and things like that. But again, at that time, then my focus was school and work and my girls. That's it. My daughter, school, work, and my daughter, school, work, and my daughter. And in the midst of all that, I get a phone call out of the blue from my grandmother on my mom's side because my mom had been living with her off and on quite a bit through all these years and stuff like that with my youngest sister at the time. My other sister, the middle one, went and lived with her dad eventually. And then so youngest sister was with my mom, and very unfortunately, that's all she ever got to see of Pam. That's my mom, Pam. And there was a shift. There's a shift in my mind and my life and everything that I have learned to accept now, where Pam was my mom. But then there was a shift where she just became Pam because she wasn't my mom anymore. Right. And then my grandmother became my mom. So sometimes when I refer to Pam as mom, I almost feel like I'm being disrespectful to my grandmother.
Well, you called your grandparents mom and dad, no?
Yes.
Okay.
Eventually, it was after I got out of the house and things like that. But yeah, I mean,
because that's how you saw them, because of how they cared for you. They were your parentals.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was like this shift in that was difficult for me to navigate through that. And honestly, I mean, it took me in my 40s to really accept it. Finally accept it.
But that led into a lot of things in your life now. Mm-hmm. When I'm hearing you tell this story, it's led in, I see so many things in your life now about how that prepared you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it did.
In the midst of being separated, going through the divorce and things like that, I get a phone call from my grandmother.
Your mom's mother.
Yes, my mom's mother.
Grandma Shark.
Yes, Grandma Shark. Yes, Grandma Shark. Their story. It's funny. But my mom had been living with her, with my youngest sister, because my middle sister had gone to go live with her dad. So they had been living off and on with her, again, boyfriends and stuff like that. Unfortunately, Haley literally got to see the worst of Pam and all that. But I got a phone call because my grandmother was older. Again, didn't graduate from high school or anything like that. So she worked in a sheet metal factory for many years. So that's very hard on your body and stuff like that. And she had medical issues. She's older and things like that. And this is like one of those things where she was supposed to be breaking up with a boyfriend, had come back to live with my grandmother. But Pam had gone to meet the boyfriend. They were talking things like that. And she never came back for like 3 days. And so my grandmother, so I was 21 at this time, grandmother calls me, like I said, going through a divorce, single mom, going back to school, working a full-time job, and I get a phone call, and she's like, Tara, I can't take care of Haley. and your mom has just disappeared again. And she's like, I can't keep doing this. And I hate to do this to you, but could you take your sister? And I was like, well, shocked. And first I'm like, no, know, and how could I do this? How is this even possible? And stuff like that. So it was almost wanting to bide myself some time. I'm like, okay, I'll come down for this weekend. So we're Ponca in Oklahoma City, or it's like it's an hour and a half, about an hour and a half drive. And so I'd go up there very regularly to visit my family, because most of my family's up in Ponca City. So I'd go up there very regularly. So I'm like, I'll come down this weekend and we'll talk about it, So, by that time, Pam had come back, shown up, been in the house, whatever. And I came that weekend and we discussed things. So to bide myself some more time, I'm like, if she does it again, which I knew in my heart of hearts that she was going to do it again. But I'm like, if she does it again, then I will come and get her.
Thank you so much for choosing to join us today. Just a quick reminder, if you enjoy our content, please go to our Instagram page, follow us. Also on YouTube, please like, subscribe, hit the little bell at the bottom so that you can be reminded when a new episode is out.